First off, we are not in the library. Can we get a ooh-ah? Woo! There we go.
Thanks for that.
Come on, this should be the fun one. This is the fun one. I mean, it is such an honor for me to be sitting with you all because of the fact that I get to hang out with some of the neatest people around.
Oh, thank you.
You know? And we're going to keep this nice and simple. I promise you, I'm not going to ask you anything to throw you under the bus. But we're looking at 1934 starting. We're looking at the Brennan's family starting Commandus in 1969. Mm-hmm. We're looking at your grandparents getting started in 1934. And your dad lost his mind in 1990.
Like in the comparison of ages, that feels like, you know, in the ages of the restaurant, I'm now the young guy in both categories.
Yeah, but you know, in the restaurant business, it's like dog years.
Sure, yeah.
1 year in the restaurant business is like dog years in the rest of the year.
I'm 20, I feel 109, so it's fine.
Do you all what was your idea of the business growing up, like the first time you heard what your grandparents were doing, the first time you heard of Commander's Palace? Give us a little look at what was your impression of the business when you first thought about it and heard about it?
So for me, it was like home. You know, it was just an extension of my grandmother's living room. So the snowball stand, if it's nothing special, it's just a cinder block building, but when you walk in, it is something very special. And there are pictures everywhere, just like in my grandmother's living room. So for me, it was a second home.
But they made it special.
Yeah.
I mean, they made
everyone feel special as well.
Yeah, oh yeah. So don't say it's not, it's special.
Well,
Yeah, and go ahead. I think you'll hear that a lot, home. We certainly say that when you walk in our doors, we want you to feel that home atmosphere, because that's exactly where we gathered, where we met family, where we were, as a child, running behind the bar on the plats that would go up and down and picking up loose change and folding boxes and napkins and really just running through the restaurant like it was our own personal playground, seeing family, seeing friends, and sometimes they would get us in the back office when we're too wild, but that's exactly it. Home, that's what it means to us when we go through those doors. We're home.
I'll say I didn't technically grow up at Commanders, right? But I say that I do because I did start there at a young age. I've been there for almost 16 years. So I do feel like a part of me grew up in that building for sure. But before that, to me, Commanders was like this mecca, right? Like, my dad's from New Orleans, my mom is from Cut Off, Louisiana, so in our household, it was kind of this clash of Cajun and Creole cuisine, and both of them cooked all the time. And, you know, long before I was around, there was Ella and Paul Prudhomme at Commanders, and that clash of Cajun and Creole cuisine, and I think that's what made that home for me. You know, like, I understood it and I got it, and that's kind of where it really began for a lot of that and food that was happening in the city. And so to be a part of that, that was my home. That felt comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, mine was similar to all. First of all, I just want to say this is an incredibly humbling experience to be sat here with these great people that are up here now. So much love to all of you. But for me, it was the place that, because I'm sure as we all experienced, our families all worked so much, and we're always either at the restaurant or around. That was how I got to hang out with my dad. You know, that was the whole thing for me when I was a kid, was that if I wanted to go and see him and hang out, it was cooking and it was in the restaurants, and it was specifically at Emerald's, you know, normally. And so, you know, running around and slipping, I have quite a few scars around the face and maybe the back a little bit from falling and things like that. But, you know, it comes with it. But that was, for me, I guess in a way, like the home, like the living room, because that was where, you know, that's where we hung out. So, yeah.
Do you remember the first meal you had at the restaurant?
No, I mean, the first meal, I mean, it might have been 6 days in, I don't know. But for me, you know, I every time that I eat something that's been on the menu or has the flavors of what's been on the menu for, forever, it immediately, even today, like I'm gonna go in tonight and I will taste test barbecue shrimp before we serve to the guests, and I'll taste that and immediately be brought back to like that tall, So I like to joke that barbecue shrimp is like my baby food, basically. So, there's worse things to have as baby food, but so for me, that was one of the things I really was I'm always transported back to being young and being around in the kitchen and stuff. I don't know if it's necessarily like, oh, that was the first time I had that, but I certainly remember the first time I like made any of them or things like that, which is always fun. And like banana cream pie, I spilled like 40 dozen eggs or something on myself the first time I tried to make it, which was great. I was just a 5-year-old covered in eggs, so that was fun.
Yeah, I have a similar experience, except I was at home sitting on the floor with that banana cream pie, alone.
Yesterday.
Day before. I don't know if you all realize this, but it's interesting. This panel is about legacies. Both of these gentlemen are the fourth.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all realize that. They're both the fourth. Are we going to keep that going to the fifth? I'm just curious.
I think you have.
The fifth is
The
10
fifth
years
is-
old.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a fifth. So not yet. We'll see.
Dook, do you remember one of your first meals or first family dinners there at the
We
restaurant?
had so many. I'm going to say if I don't remember the first, I know it would revolve around gumbo, because that was a dish that we always did when the family gathered. But what my grandparents always made sure of, that each and every one had their favorite meal. Mine was meatballs and spaghetti. I know it's basic, simple, but I love it. But when we gathered, that's how much food we would have, because they would have my favorite, they would have your favorite, they would have your favorite. So everybody had a buffet of their favorites, and it was just a ton of food throughout the restaurant. So it's always a good time when we walk in there.
Oh, yeah. Meg?
I remember sitting in the garden room at Commander's Palace. I don't remember how old I was, but I just remember the chaos around us and how loud the room was. And it was like everyone was having the most fun. And to me, that was just so powerful. Like, tables were laughing and cheering, and there was just this energy about the room that I understood that something special was happening there.
Ashley, do you remember your first snowball?
No.
It's probably a baby food.
It was in a
situation.
bottle.
It was baby food in a bottle.
100%.
Did you do it as a kid? Did you ever just go to take the syrup bottle and just swig from it?
My grandmother would.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah. My grandmother lived to be 95.
Is that the secret? It's just cream of nectar.
But you know, talk about traditions. Your grandmother, after every snowball that was poured, she would put the cream flavor back in the refrigerator.
Yes. We still do.
Yeah, and you have to go because it makes a difference if it doesn't stay cold.
Right.
Here's a question that this may take some time with, and I don't know who wants to go with this one first. Who did you have the conversation with, and how did you find out that you were the one that was going to be taking the reins over and leading the brigade?
Oh, I think, for
We'll
me...
give them time. Chat amongst yourselves for this moment. Why aren't you all in school?
But,
What school?
love.
Yeah. Try it one more time. Oh, wow.
Kobe Lane, but I'll jump in and start that. I think for me, we grew up, and that's, I think, was my grandparents and my parents' way of showing us the tradition and the history of that restaurant. As I said, running around that restaurant, but we had odd jobs as a kid, folding boxes, folding napkins, which we thought were fascinating and exciting at the time. what we didn't realize as we were growing up is that's why they were just slowly giving us that passion to be in this business. So it's not just about me being in a restaurant. As you know, I have many of the fourth generation and the fifth generation. My niece Zoe is a chef at Dookie's now. That plays their role at Dookie's. Certainly I lead the kitchen, Zoe's there, my cousin Cleo, but in the front of the house we have Tracy, we have Kim, in the back we have Marla that's looking over all the business sides. So as my grandmother would say, between her and my grandfather, she would prepare the food and cook the food. My grandfather would watch the business side. He would say, Leah's gonna give away the house. She would say, Dookie's not giving away enough. Now we have about 10 people that go through that process. Dook is gonna give away the house. We need to watch him, and he's not giving away enough. But it's that family aspect as a child that raised us to all find and fall in love in each position that we do in this restaurant business. And you know, everybody up here will share the same story. This business is not easy. It's 24/7, it's constant. So lucky for me, I have enough people to share that load, to carry it. We all find our way to go in this child's game, this thing. So it's been a great blessing for me to have so many family members willing to pitch in and keep this thing moving.
How many times did she give you that look?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
My family and their family go back so long. As a kid, I remember one of the first restaurants I remember sitting up on a pillow and to stand next to your grandmother in the kitchen. And I made a suggestion one time, and she gave me that y'all know that grandma look? Y'all know that look like? I knew right then, no.
Yeah, you hit it. She didn't have to open her mouth for you to understand what was going on. And I tell you, I started in her back kitchen washing pots. And I thought I was doing a great job on her pots. I was shining the inside and all that. And I brought it to her. She looked at me with that look and flipped the pot under where it touches the fire and saying, look at this, you have to shine my pot. So the pot underneath had to look just as shiny as it is on the outside. And then I knew, I said, oh man, this is gonna be tough. But I got through it, and we still have those pots to this day. A lot of those pots are older than anybody in that restaurant right now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I still use the same spoon that my grandmother used to stir the syrup.
Yeah.
So I use that every day with the same pot that my grandfather built for her, like a huge 5 or 6 gallon pot. And he attached a tap to it so that she wouldn't have to lift it. And so every time I use those instruments, I cannot help but think about her palm on that and how many gallons of simple syrup she stirred over the course of her
That's amazing.
95 years.
And for you all that don't realize this, Ashley's grandfather, Mr. Ernest, is responsible for us having snowballs the way we have snowballs today, because if not for him creating that machine to shave that ice so thin, we'd be like everybody else with these ice cups. You know, you drink the liquid, now you're left with a block of hard ice. But because of that machine that he made.
I can walk in and hear the snowball machine, and I know if it's running correctly or not. It talks to you, you know, and like, it's like a fine-tuned engine of a car, or like an antique car at this point, you know.
I remember a little too well. I still wake up with fever dreams about this conversation. But unfortunately, Commanders was shut down due to COVID. And we had a lot of projects going on, right? Everybody's trying to, I called it stapling Jell-O to the ceiling, just trying to do something and see what sticks, right? And so we were, crossing our fingers and working towards getting the restaurant reopened in fall of 2020. And so T pulled me into the conference room just for a chat, It's like, okay. And we sat down and we started this long conversation just with pretty serious question after pretty serious question about, what I thought it took to be a leader and what were the true qualities of a very strong leader. And we went through and talked about all of the managers that were still on staff. We talked about the vision of the restaurant, her vision compared to the current chef's vision compared to my vision after being there for so long, and where we were going, and what was really important to Commanders, and how we reflected our community, and just really deep, big stuff, you know? And, you know, during that time, everyone was doing a lot of reflecting. So to me, this conversation wasn't too out of sorts, you know? She and I had known each other for a long time at that point, so it was comfortable. But it was important, you know? I felt like something important was happening here. And so I went home that evening and I told my husband about our very serious conversation. And he's like, something's going on. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not gonna think too far into this because it's been a lot lately, right? And so the next day I went into our office, and again, we started talking about, you know, the importance of what it means to run a restaurant like that. And we talked about what I thought integrity was to both of us, top of the list characteristics for a strong leader. And her and Lally at a certain point just turned and looked at me and they said, okay, well, we'd like for you to be the chef of Commander's Palace. Do you think you want to do that? And it was just like sweat, you know, like complete shock. I had no idea that that was coming. And so I just kind of sat there for a while and I said, I think I need to talk to my husband. And I went home that night and told my husband what had happened, and he said, why are you here talking to me? Go tell those people yes. But it was great. It was something that I had wanted for so long and I had worked for so long. But when it was presented to me, it was like, oh my God, you know, just shocked that it was here and already. And I was incredibly honored. I'm still honored every day I get to walk into that building to hold that position. So.
You know, I have to tell you, I've got called from friends out of town that said, oh, Commanders, I see they got their first female executive chef. And I said, I have to correct you. I said, not their first female executive chef, they got their next executive chef.
Thank you.
That's just as good as those that came before them.
Well, you know, Ella didn't cook much. I don't even know if she owned a pot. But I think technically she might have been the first chef of Commanders, you know? I mean,
yes.
She had, you know, a mind for food, and that was incredible. And what she and Paul did, what she and Emerald did, and I'm just very fortunate that I got to spend a lot of time with her before she passed, because I definitely cherish those moments with me.
Without a doubt.
When
For me, mine was never a, hey, this is what you're gonna do
Right.
sort of thing. And Ashley and I have actually talked about this at length, but you know, my dad was never putting a weighted backpack on me or anything like that, in the sense of like, no, like, you're doing this. It really became a supernatural thing. I went to him and was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And then his rule was like, well, yeah, you can't work for me. That was like the whole thing. So I didn't for a while. And then it was in 2022, I was working in Sweden, and he came to see me for my birthday. And he like walked in and was like, yeah, so I really think I want to renovate Emerald's, and I want to like do some stuff at Emerald's that we've been talking about for quite some time. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like, who are you going to find to like do this and all that? And he was like, no, like you should leave Sweden. And I was like, oh, okay, so well now that's my job. So that was great. And obviously it's a dream come true to be there. We renovated this past summer. It was a 5-month renovation. We just reopened in October. And then, so May will be my second year in charge over there, which is good fun. But it was never a pressure to sort of run into it. And I think that's probably why it ended up the way that it did. I think had he applied so much pressure, I don't know if it would have been, you know, I might have been a bit more rebellious and been like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. But I had such a love for cooking and a love for food and a love for like the dining room table as a kid, because of the things that we would do as a family, between my grandparents cooking, my dad cooking, all of those types of things, that for me it was just like, oh yeah, like that makes so much sense. And that was, you know, I mean, I was 12 years old when I told my dad that's what I wanted to do. And the first thing he said to me, we were leaving dinner, and we got in the car, and I was like, yeah, so I think this is what I want to do. And he just like looked at me and was like, no, like you need to think about that a little bit more before. And then like 3 months later, I was like, hey, no, like I was serious. It's really what I want to do. And he was like, you're 13. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you've got so much time to decide what you want to do. And I was like, wow, if I get a jump start, I can try to be good and I can go work. And it was like, yeah. So it worked out. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Ashley, was it hard after Katrina getting back up and running?
It was kind of a pivotal moment for me. My grandparents passed away shortly after Katrina. My grandmother died about 9 days after the storm, and my grandfather only lived about 6 months without her. And there were a lot of food writers and foodies in town that had done a lot of service work for like Willie Mays Scotch House, and they said, do you need any help? And I was like, no, I don't, everything is crazy right now. No. Like, my grandfather was in Thibodeau. I was driving there every other day to see him. I was coming back, bringing groceries and butter, and because you couldn't find anything here. And finally, I was like, I do need help. I need help. And we had roof damage. My grandfather had passed away, and at that point, it was a decision I made. Like, I knew that my grandparents would want me to be there, And I kind of thought, well, I'm going to do this for their memory. I'm going to do this for the city. And really, I really wanted to just be there for me. That was my home. And so many good memories. And so we opened, and people started leaving postcards and old Polaroids and child's drawings of snowballs on the front door. And I realized that my grandparents were my grandparents, but they were also grandparents to half the city of New Orleans. And I liked being a part of the wider family of New Orleans. We've seen generations of customers. I've served generations of families.
And I think that's something else that makes us very unique here in New Orleans, that in most cities, there may be competition between restaurants, there may be competition between chefs. But for us, I think anyone in this city, if you just need something, you could pick up the phone and call anyone, and we would be right there for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's so unique to this city that I haven't seen in any other area.
I will never forget that, the kindness that people showed me in helping me to rebuild, because at that point it was just me. Because before, it was just my grandfather and my grandmother and me. So it was just the three of us, and sometimes my dad would get off court and come help us lock up at night and make sure everyone got home safe and stuff. But it was just the three of us. And so finally, it was just me.
Do you notice how child labor laws don't apply in restaurant industry?
Don't apply in the
especially in this city?
No, they don't apply.
As long as you're big enough to walk, take it.
And I think to EJ's, it's also about temperament.
Yes.
You have to have the temperament to work with the old folks.
Yeah.
I worked with two 85-year-olds, and then all of a sudden they were 95, and you have to have that you have to slow down, and you have to see things in a different way. You have to experience things in a different way. It's not that my grandparents handed me anything. Like, I was there. I had to see what she was doing. I had to take apart the machine and put it back together with him. I had to hold him up to do it, and that's what we did as a family. Yeah. And my sister, I have a twin sister, and she would tell my grandmother, this is a better way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my grandmother would be like, you're fired.
Yeah. I've been fake fired like 15 times.
I had the right temperament, it's about temperament,
Well, and that's what the saying is about having big shoes to fill. But I think in filling those shoes, the four of you all are creating your own shoe. And so can you tell us some of the things that you're doing to create your own signature and to put your own touch to it? So like when your sister comes in now, you go, turn around, you're fired. But you're the one saying that.
I think for me, it was always finding ways for more and more family to participate in a meaningful way. So certainly we ventured off into the airport business, and I pay homage to my grandmother with Leah's Kitchen. Then we have Dook's Burgers in there as well. But our newest restaurant, Chapter 4, we just opened last year, which is doing well. And my wife came on and helped me with that. She's the architect and all of that behind that. But funny story when you're talking about growing up and doing things a little different. So our busiest day is coming up, Holy Thursday, Gumbo Zab. And as a child, and even later on in my 20s, and probably still up until 2003, we would hand grind these greens. That was my job for my grandmother with the old crank grinder. And you would just grind and grind and grind. So as I got older and got a job, I bought the electric one. Because I said, this thing is taking me a week, which I can do in a day if I bought this big old machine. And she looked at it. She said, this boy doesn't know what he's doing. So the first time I'm in there and I'm stuffing it, and the thing stops. And she looks again. I pull out the old crank grinder. So this was our secret battle. So smart me said, you know what? The machine's too small. I'm going to get a bigger one. So I got the bigger one and came in and it wiped it all out. But those stories is what I love in the kitchen and working around so many family members. But my job is really now is not only to sustain a rich history and tradition that we do at Dookie Chase, but find different avenues for each and every family member to get involved with, because I have a lot and they all want to participate in this business. So.
And I know at Chapter 4, if I'm thinking correct, you have the traditionals on the menu, but you're also able to create some new pieces for the menu.
That's correct. We're able to play around with. One thing I do know is, you talk about those stories of feeding generations, and same for us. So what we always know and appreciate is when you came to Dookie Chase as a child and tasted that gumbo, it sure better taste the same way now as you bring in your grandchildren. Mm-hmm. If you had the fried chicken, the greens. So the staples, we have to maintain that consistency. So when we develop new concepts, it gives the newer generation times to say, yeah, we have our staples, but now we get to play around a little bit and we get to bring our whatever take on this, that, and the other. But a lot of our cooking is really founded in that just fundamental basis of good cuisine, good Creole cuisine. So even though we play a lot, if you dig into the foundation, it all starts from that same aspect.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same thing, because in the same vein we have two menus at Emerald's, and it's a classic menu and a seasonal menu. And so basically what we've done with Emerald's is we've taken it to where, and my dad said this the other day, and we were talking about it with somebody, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And he said we were trying to get it to a point where what we wanted to do at Emerald's after this renovation and what we were aiming for was to have it be like Emerald's had just kept evolving over 34 years, and this is just where we were. Like it had just continuously been like that, because, and he said this, he's like, after like 1998, he's like, nothing really changed on the menu or anything like that. Most of the stuff was just there, and it was the way that it was. And, my dad opened it to be a white tablecloth fine dining restaurant. They opened it with an a la carte menu and then a tasting menu, with a set tasting menu that he changed like once a week. And so in the discussions of it, he was like, I'd like to go to this full tasting menu format where it's two set menus. And I was like, okay, fantastic, sounds like a plan. And the classic menu really is sort of just modern interpretations of those classic Emerald's dishes. There's still banana cream pie on the menu. One of the times I got fake fired was because I changed the banana cream pie. And then...
No!
I genuinely, and so then I went back to it, and now it's this same banana cream pie, except it's just like 1/8 the size of the original one. Because after 12 courses, you're not gonna eat a pie this big.
Well,
you did,
don't speak for everybody. Don't put all of us. Some of us have trained our whole lives.
I know you had many nights on the floor eating the banana cream pie. I'll sit, whatever you need.
I'm dressed up today because I put on a belt, but normally I got stretchy. I can.
Look, I'm with you. I'll box one up. I'll make a full one, old with this all up.
Here's the sad part. Here's the sad part. I'm having flashbacks because you brought that doggone banana cream pie up again. But I remember on my way home with that banana cream pie, I also had a cup of the barbecue shrimp sauce in a cup. in a cup holder with a napkin full of little biscuits that come
Yep.
with the
Oh,
barbecue.
yeah, rosemary
and I'm
biscuits.
dipping the biscuits in the barbecue shrimp while I'm driving. And
Did you do a double
don't judge me.
banana and barbecue?
I'm sorry, did I what?
Banana into barbecue?
No, I was waiting. No, this was the appetizer to get. I waited till I got home and sat on the floor with the banana cream pie. But I was dipping the biscuits in and then I ran out of biscuits, so I had to drink.
Oh yeah,
the
no, I've done
sauce.
that. No shame in the game, my friend. I have done that. I promise you.
Yes.
I promise you.
I knew I was your uncle.
Good.
Yes.
Same page. But yeah, I mean, that was the thing, was really, putting the spin on it in a way, but those dishes are still there. And I think what Duke said in the sense of consistency is the most, between all of us here, the consistency has to be there.
Well, also, like, if you mess with a recipe, for me, it's like you're messing with someone's childhood.
Yeah,
exactly.
messing with
Like,
people's
if
memories.
people's-
Yeah.
Nostalgia is a very important
It is.
ingredient
I mean,
in all of it.
for us, I kind of think that like nostalgia is our superpower, or one of our superpowers, besides great food.
No, I mean, that's
But it's
exactly-
good to have some new memories come too.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Sure. And you're
But
saying,
I-
I mean, and you're getting to try out new stuff and all of that, and with the seasonal menu, we've got all these incredible farmers that we all get to use in all around this, because Ashley has like some of the most incredible fruit juices that she uses for the syrups that she's juicing in house, using like the most unbelievable stuff. And we're dealing with all of these purveyors who are giving us incredible products, and so like I want to have fun with that. So it's nice to not have a really like stiff box that you're not able to explore a little bit outside of. But now we have dishes on the menu that are on the seasonal menu, and we're changing that all the time. But the dishes on the seasonal menu that now people are like, is that going to go on the classic menu? Because that's now and I'm like, no. I'll just bring it back next year in the spring in the seasonal menu type of thing. So, but yeah, that's a great question actually.
I think at Commanders, change is not an idea, it's an expectation, and it's a really challenging one to live up to. But the challenge of that is what makes it so exciting to me and my team. I think it started with Paul and Ella and what they were doing. It was carried on by Emerald. Jamie was constantly pushing the boundaries. Tori definitely was. And so keeping that going. Yes, the turtle soup has to taste the same today as it, did 100 years ago. And if it doesn't, all hell will break loose, And it's because you're going to mess with people's perfect little package that they've built of what that's supposed to be. And we're honored to get to deliver that. But if we're not changing the menu more than once a week, we got problems. Yeah. We do. We got to push. We got to move forward. And being a part of that, that's the thing that's the most challenging and the most fun.
And what's fun visiting with you is the fact that I know you're using both sides. You're using
Oh, yeah.
New Orleans
Well, there's
side,
so much to
plus
play
you're
with.
going down
Yeah.
the bayou and
Yeah.
getting a little bit from there.
It's a beautiful broad umbrella, and I would be surprised if not everybody on this panel agreed that it's like the wider we can get that umbrella,
Absolutely.
the more fun we're going to have, and the more inclusiveness our cuisine, which has always been, is going to become,
I think, like, on that note, and on everything that we've just been talking about for the last, 30 minutes, I think something that we all share, definitely, is the fact that people, and I was literally having this discussion with our team at the restaurant yesterday. We were in pre-meal, and we were talking about restaurant business. And for me, whether it's a snowball stand or carrying on a place like Commanders that Meg does so wonderfully, or anything, what we are entrusted with are people's most important moments of their lives, and it's a very special thing that we get. I mean, if I look at it from a restaurant sense, like when I look at the guests coming in tonight, and I've got 6 birthdays and 4 anniversaries, that's somebody's 45th birthday. That's somebody's 20th wedding anniversary. And they're trusting me. I mean, they're trusting me with their most special moment in their life, and they celebrate with us. They go to Hansen's because they just got the job promotion, and it's on the way home from work, and their wife meets them there.
Yep.
And they go get cream and nectar like they did when they were 5 years old. And they're like, I'm 5, I'm a big kid, and I just got promoted at work, peace and love. And it's awesome,
Right.
They go to Commanders, they get turtle soup. They're like, wow, it's just the way that it was when I came with my aunt 25 years ago, and we get to celebrate that because she passed 5 years ago, or something like that, And I think all of us have our part in providing those experiences for people in really, really special moments of their life. And I think that, at the end of the day, is the legacy.
That's
and the
why
art
you
of
do it.
hospitality.
Yeah,
That's why you do it.
that's why you wake
know?
up
And
every
it's,
day.
it's the
Yeah.
best thing, because you may get up in the
also-
morning one day and you go, it's, you know.
For
but
me,
they're
it's
trusted.
like it's also about communication and conversation.
Yeah.
And we have a conversation with the ingredients we use, whether it's like the cucumbers and watermelon that's grown down the street, and the ingredients we use, but also the people that like certain flavors. Like, what is it about the conversation about food that we all enjoy?
Yeah.
And you get to really know people about what they like.
Yes.
Yeah, that's-
I just spent a moment with Ashley last weekend, or 2 weekends ago. I went by right as you were getting ready to open up, and I went by because I serve Ashley's snowballs at the restaurant. Like, that's a thing that we do now. It's the sort of like palate cleanser in between the main courses and the desserts. And we just had a tiff in the back because she refuses to let me pay for the syrup. And so we're gonna have to talk about that later. But like cream of Negra, we've got them all at the
I give too
restaurant.
much away.
And I was in there, and I'm like, what are we gonna do for the new season for the snowballs? Like, what's this new seasonal thing I'm gonna? Ashley popped in. We were with someone that we're close with, Saunders, who works at the restaurant, but then also like hangs out at the snowball stand all the time and has for many years. And so he's like in there and he's like pouring all this stuff. And Ashley came in for 2 seconds. I mean, walked in, was like, "Hi, EJ," gave me a hug, and was like, "Hibiscus, pineapple, and ginger," and just left. And I was like, what? It's like, what are you talking about? And Saunders was like, okay, so he put it together, and I'm like, oh my God. So now that's our snowball. So, you know, like.
Well, I feel like that at y'all's restaurants.
But I think you hit it, and we touch on it so much. You know, it's very few industries that get to play a role in people's memories as much as we do, and create experiences. And I think that's the fascinating thing. But you're right on. That's what gives us that passion and inspiration to say, wow, I can go in this floor and I'm a part of your memory, your birthday, your anniversary. And we hope you enjoyed each and every part of it. So
It's what gives you the energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that moment in time where, for me, the snowball is melting. Like, from the minute we make it, it starts melting, right? And it is such like a symbol of the present moment, right? Slipping away. You have you're dining at these awesome fancy restaurants, and you get to really enjoy the people you're with. You put your phone away after you take pictures of everything, you know. But like, it's like that's why we do what we do.
Yeah,
It's like
it
to
is.
enjoy the present moment with the people that we love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, food is so communal. I feel like a snowball is just like that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, food is all power. It is. It's healing. It's
Nurturing.
nurturing. It's everything. And the
Enlivening.
honor to get to break bread with people and the conversation that happens, which I know, I mean,
It's
goodness, the conversations that have happened at Dookie Chase, you know, and the way that has changed our world, the things that have happened in our walls it's powerful.
Right before, we're going to open up the floor for questions, but just quickly, I want to steal something right quick. Bernard Pivot was a French journalist who had incredible conversations with folks, and he would always ask them questions at the end. So because we're talking about legacies, I'm going to steal one of his questions that he used to always ask. And it's, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear from those that went before you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, wow.
Food's good up here.
I think you're my son. I think you're my son.
I'm gonna have to take a DNA test in a little bit, I'm telling you.
You know, I think good job. One of the great things that I hear when people come to the restaurant is saying, your grandmother would be proud or your family would be proud. That's all I need to hear. That means we're continuing that legacy. We're doing the things the right way. So I think if I'm up there and they say, hey, we're proud, or if not and they don't open those gates, I already know what's going on.
I'll say one thing we joke about a lot recently, just talking about Ella and missing her. And working in the commander's kitchen, there is a phone that is on the wall on the side of the kitchen. And there's another phone up in the garden room at Dottie and Ella's house. And that phone would ring around 7 o'clock at night, no matter what day of the week, could be the middle of Saturday dinner, and Ella would call, and she's hungry, and she wants something. And so it was like an honor to get to cook Ella or Dottie dinner every once in a while. And so you would bring dinner over there, and now it's 7:45 on a Saturday night. Like, you can't be out of the kitchen for too long. And she'd go, sit down, have a brandy. and nobody says no to Ella Brennan. So that's what I would like to hear. I'd like to walk in. I'd love for her to tell me to sit down and have a brandy.
That's brilliant.
I'm more like Dookie. Like, I really feel that my grandparents would like to hear all the stories that they've missed, and to hear that they're proud of me would probably be that moment, heaven. They work so hard, and the big shoes,
Yes.
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 I have tiny feet.
Thank you, dear. Questions? Oh, here we go.
Look at that.
Hi, Connie Jackson from the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. One of I think this dichotomy between the old faithfuls and the innovation, especially here in New Orleans, is really important. I mean, at the museum, we have a bunch of signs of brands that are now defunct because they kept doing the same old thing. So just wondering, at what point are the old favorites, how do you balance between the old favorites and the new stuff? Because I think that's one of the things that some people are saying now about New Orleans, that we're kind of riding on our reputation and not innovating as much as we used to.
I think that a big thing is that I think that creativity dies when innovation stops. If you're content with the way that something is in any business, I think you're thinking about it wrong, personally. I didn't come up with that. Somebody told me that. But I think if you're sat there and you're like, all is well, I'm good, you're in the wrong space. You need to be thinking about it in the sense of, how can I come in? And it doesn't necessarily, like for me in the restaurant, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the food. It's like today we can starch the tablecloths differently so that they last 45 minutes more in the service instead of wrinkling up a little bit more. They stay nice and flat for another 45 minutes or something like that. Or, I really like the hydrangeas that the florist has put in, but there needs to be 7 of them and not 6 because the odd number looks better than the, like there's always something you can find to progress the narrative along, I think.
If it ain't broke, fix it anyway.
Yeah. And I also think, that marriage or that balance between both, right? So example for us at Dookie's, our gumbo. We don't have a recipe that anybody comes in and looks and say, I put this, that, and the other. They learn it through taste, through that process. So they know how to alter it, how to fix it. The roux goes too far, how to adjust and all that. But that allows and gives them the confidence to be creative going through. They understand that process. One, I understand how to keep this consistent, but through learning, I understand how to now go be innovative and cherish out. New Orleans and Louisiana has the best food pantry in the world. If you're talking about the fertile soils coming from the Delta region, you're talking about the Gulf, the Lake Pontchartrain, there's nothing that we can't really access here if we wanted to. So to utilize that and be creative and innovative, sky's the limit.
Yes, sir.
Jay Winford, Opelousas in New Orleans. You guys really do have the toughest jobs in the world. And as you've all said, you're the fabric of our lives. We create our memories from you and with you. So I just, representing the audience, I want to thank you all for what you do and for being part of our lives, whether you know it or not.
Well, we have to thank you all because without you all, none of us would be sitting here.
That is right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is James, and it's a question for Ms. Hansen. What was your favorite snowball flavor growing up and why?
Awesome. So nectar cream was my favorite growing up because it's a rich vanilla flavor and it's pink. And my grandmother loved it, so I loved it because she loved it.
What's yours, James?
Mine's blue bubble gum.
Blue
Okay,
bubble gum?
bubblegum, yeah. Right now, watermelon is really good.
Yes.
All right, this is for everybody on the board. I was wondering if you were going to open a new restaurant anywhere in the world and you had no ties to New Orleans, but you still had all of your experience, where would you want to open the restaurant? And then as an extension to that question, where do you see as the most promising new, innovative areas in the culinary world, in the world and then specifically in the U.S.?
That's a great and a tough question. The question was, if we didn't have ties to New Orleans, where would we open up the next restaurant? And for us, the way we look at new ventures and where we're going is how can we fit and play a role in the community outside of that restaurant? If we open at this block in this community, what does it do for this area? And that's how we kind of look at each and every place that we go. Certainly, we're going to come in, we want to provide great food and great hospitality and those memories. But what are we going to help this community do outside of this restaurant? And if we can check off all those boxes or lists, then we dive right in. But that's a great question. I don't know.
We're in the process of building another restaurant right now in the city of New Orleans. I've lived in a lot of different places. I'm young, but I've been around in that sense, and I think I'd still pick New Orleans every time, without a doubt. I don't think there's a more captivating city for culinary in the country, and I believe that it's in the process, with the help of all the fantastic people on this stage, and the other people in the community, that I think it's on the way to really, really cementing itself once again as a culinary destination in the world. Myself as a chef, I really enjoyed working in Sweden. I worked at a restaurant called Hansen in Sweden, and it's a highly regarded restaurant. And I think it's phenomenal what they're doing. I've not been to Japan, but a lot of my chef friends have, and apparently it changes everybody's view on how things work in the culinary sense going to Japan. But for me, it would have to be the Nordic countries, and specifically Sweden, I think.
And unfortunately, we are out of time. But thank you all for supporting the New Orleans Book Festival. Thank you all for coming and giving your time to part of the book festival. And of course, if you want to see them, you know where to find them. All you have to do is go to Emerald's.
Yes.
Go to Dookie Chase or Chapter 4, Commander's Palace, Hansen Snowbliz. All right?
Thank you.
And if you're nice, the person next to you may pick up your tab.
There you go.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.